Today we're going to be doing a video on the Ls7 big block Chevy that we bring back with the 65 Chevelle back from Jenny's mom's house. I believe that this is the engine that Dave, Jenny's dad, had set aside that he wanted to put into the Chevelle. And a little bit of a story on how it got to this point, tore apart, because it was a complete engine minus the intake. We got it off the trailer onto the cherry picker. I put it on the engine stand, and I was going to pull the drain plugs on the side of the block to make sure there was no antifreeze in it. And I tipped the engine, and I heard something clank in the pan. I'm like, what the heck? So I ended up taking the pan off, and I found that the front of the oil pan was smashed in. And when we took the pan off, the pickup tube on the oil pump was just laying in the bottom of the pan, and that was moving when I rolled the engine on its side. So I'm like, well, that ain't good. So I ended up tearing the pan off and checking it, and sure enough, it was laying in the bottom of the pan. But on the weekend of New Year's Eve, we had the whole family up here. We had Jenny's mom, all my kids, all my grandkids. We had our Christmas up here on New Year's weekend, and the house was full. So me and the boy, Cody, my oldest, we came out to the shop here and started messing around, and we decided to tear this thing down just to see what it was, and if that, if it got ran after the pickup tube fell into the pan and, starving for oil, or did it wreck the bearings. And we started running numbers on everything, and so it is an LS7. They have the date code scratched off. It's a 454 block. From what I can tell, it's a 70 to a 73. LS7 blocks are GM produced blocks that they gave to like aftermarket companies to build, like for power boats or Yanko cars or what have you. An aftermarket company gets these blocks from GM, and then they build them to customer specs how they want them. So it is a factory block, but the stuff internally and externally is not a factory. And these companies build these. That's why they're the LS7. The LS6 is the biggest you could get in like the Chevelles. That'd be the LS6 454 in 1970. So anytime you hear somebody say that they have an LS7, that means it's an aftermarket. It's a factory block with an aftermarket company who built it. So that's what we have here. And I'm going to get you guys off the tripod and kind of run you over some of this stuff and show you the company name that built this. And we'll go over a couple things on this block, and then we'll go over the heads. Hopefully we'll be able to save this block. There's a couple issues that I found when we tore it apart. There was, let me see, number 4 and 6 cylinders, and the number 5 had quite a bit of oil consumption, like burn on top of the pistons. And there was, carbon on the rest of them, but this was definitely oil burning. So I don't know if the rings were wore out. So I know when we took the timing chain off to get the camshaft out, it was pretty sloppy. So there was some miles on this engine before Dave purchased it. So good thing we did tear it apart, not just shove it in and take it for granted that it was good, because first fired up it would have went dry and we would have probably locked it up, being that the pickup tube was laying in the bottom of the pan. So we got lucky there. So I'm going to get you guys off the stand, and we'll get you over here and I'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, this is the 7.3 454 LS7 high performance passenger. And as you guys can see here, when GM sends them out, they X numbers out here and on other locations. That way it can't be traced back to a particular vehicle. And we can see down in here that it still has heat tabs on the saw plugs. And this is the company that did the build. I tried looking them up, but I couldn't find anything. So but it does have TRW 30 over forged pistons. I mean, you can still see the cross hatching in the cylinders. There's no ream ridge here, or ring ridge. So, I mean, it's perfect. But you can see a little bit of the thrust wear on the side of the block there after they've been ran for a while. It is a 4-bolt main, but what kind of made me think of what the heck was going on with this engine, when I first took the pan off, I seen it had like the windage tray that you would see on a like say 454 SS OBS truck, you know, like the throttle body stuff. I'm like, oh shit. But that wasn't the case, because this is a Gen 4 block, 2-piece rear main seal. And on the mother blocks, the Gen 5s, which could be throttle body or what have you, they don't have the provision for the manual fuel pump, which this does, and the rod is in here. So, and then like I said, somebody put high domes in it. You know, they're not big domes, but I think with like a 27,000 head gasket and a 119cc head, you'd probably be maybe 10.3, 10.2 to 1 compression. And when we pulled the camshaft out, the cam bearings don't look like they ran dry, which was perfect. So the block, at the least, I would have to say, you know, I'd like to pull it apart, maybe do a dingle ball hone on it and re-ring it. But that ain't the only issue we found with the bottom end guys. Let me, it's gonna be kind of hard to flip this over with you in my hand. But yeah, I mean, even it's got the holes in the plugs to help oiling on. Usually you see them on gear drives. Jay's 468 that I built had that set up with his gear drive to help the gear drive oiling. But obviously another aftermarket company that built this thought it was a good idea to do that also. And it just had a double roller timing chain and gear in it. So yeah, I mean, all the cylinders look great. Like I said, they just have that little, you can see the thrust marks in the cylinders, which you're going to get after a little bit of mileage. It did have a custom ground reed cam, which I'll pull that out in a second too and get it set up so we can look at it. But yeah, I've never heard of that company, E&E. Like I said, these blocks, the casting number on the back of the block, which is 14015-445. They go from 1970 all the way up to, I think it was 85 or 84. You know, and then obviously 86, they started switching everything over to the throttle body. But the date code, you know, they, on my big block, they have date codes here. That's gone, that's not on here. It's a 294 casting block. The P for passenger, and then CFO or CFD, or CFO. And here's another marking here with no date. It says 445 high performance passenger. Another shot of the company that built the Ls7. But let me go ahead and I'm going to shut this off for a second and get this rolled over, and we'll take a peek at the bottom end, and then I'll get the cam laid out and we'll go over that. So I'll bring you guys right back. All right, we got this rolled over. As you guys can see there, 7.4 GM block. You got your heat tab. That voids your warranty if that falls off. That means you got it too hot. It does have bronze or brass freeze plugs in it. Like I said, it has the manual fuel pump provision. It does have a steel crank in it. An aftermarket. I believe it has been balanced. So it's got a balanced rotating assembly. I mean, the rod bolts are huge in this. I don't know if you guys can see down in there. I bring my light out here. No, I didn't. But anyway, it says TRWs forged. But yeah, what scared me is, like, you know, early 70s block, Gen 4, with this windage tray. As soon as I pulled it off, that was the first thing I seen, besides the, obviously, the, you can see here, the weld that didn't hold, and the pickup tube is here. That didn't hold. So that was laying down in the pan. But the first thing I seen when I pulled the pan off was this newer style windage tray, you know, 85 and above. You know, they didn't put that back in the early days on the big blocks. But yeah, I mean, it's got the thick rods in there, steel crank, which has been balanced. The Merlin the M77 high volume oil pump. But like I said, it is a 2-piece rear main seal, which is intuitive of an early 70s Gen 4 block. So the other issue that we've seen with this block, when I was cleaning up the top of the pistons, you know, and wiping everything up, I don't know, get down here, is this right here. Oh, well, it's going to show up on camera here. Turn this a little bit more. But, you know, the big block Chevys, they have this cutout here on every cylinder on that side. That's just the way they are, you know, from the factory. But this one here kind of looks like, you know, that there's even looks like a little shard right there. So it ain't into the cylinder. But if you look where the head gasket rides, it's in the sealing part of the head gasket. So, I mean, if you put any, with that being, well, you know, I guess that's pretty deep over into the ceiling area also. It might not be nothing. I might have to just get like a little light duty burr, nothing real aggressive, and just kind of smooth that out. And it should be okay, I hope. But that kind of freaked me out when I saw that also. I was like, oh shit, what is that? So my next step, you know, is being that pickup tube was laying in the bottom of the pan, I do want to pull, you know, the rods and main, you know, a couple of main caps, a couple of rod caps, and check the bearings in there. Like I said, the cam bearings look like they suffered no starvation of oil. So once we get this apart, I'll be able to tell if this is, you know, one of the early steel cranks out of, you know, the 4 1/4 horse big block Chevys back in the 70s or late 60s. I'll be able to tell more once I get the crank, you know, out and and maybe find a number on it. I couldn't find nothing up front so far, so I'll have to take the windage tray out. But that's going to be the plan. And the camshaft that was in it was a custom ground reed cam. I've never heard of reed. There you go, there's a better picture of it. Come on, stay still. Custom ground reed cam. And let me see here. It came with the heavy duty 80 thickness walled push rods. They're not the ball, they're not the balled end like this would come factory on a big block. I think I have, where are they? And my mess of, yeah, these are big block Chevy here, the short ends. See how they got the balled end on them, the balls? So these are the shorts for the short side. But yeah, I mean, it had nice heavy duty push rods. It had these cast iron Merlin heads, which have been heavily ported. So it's got Harlen sharp rockers on it. And somebody's did some work to the rockers to make them clear, the valve cover. On the aluminum stuff, you ain't got that problem, but on the ends. So, yeah, it's got Manley guide plates. So them ain't factory GM, them are Manley. I don't know, I said I tried to running the numbers on this camshaft from Reed to find out what lift, duration, all that. I couldn't find any information on it. Maybe if you guys do a search on it and see if something pops up from you. But these are, these look like baby springs compared to my Dart 360 for the Blazer engine. But these are still a 155 spring. And they got nice keepers in there. You can actually see when they put the springs in, make sure the spring height was right. They got the copper spacers down in there. It's a nice piece. So at the very least, I would probably have to pull the springs out and maybe put new seals in them. Relap the valves in myself. Like I said, it was getting oil in some of these cylinders from somewhere. And I know on a big block Chevy, let me see if I can. On a big block Chevy, you got to be real careful on your gaskets on the bottom that goes into your intake valley. Because if you don't get this sealed up good here, they will suck oil from the intake valley into the ports. Which, I don't know if that was the case, but man, these things, whoever ported them did a nice job. Let me see if I can spin this around. Kind of show you the other side here. There you can see that's carbon. That was burning oil. And how I can tell it was burning oil? That's fired oil. That's not just oil that was sitting there. So 3 cylinders at the very least on this side. I think this would have been the even side. This one not quite as bad, but yeah, it was definitely getting oil in from somewhere. So I don't know if it was sucking it through the intake side, or if the rings are wore out enough. I mean, it doesn't show a lot of wear on the cylinders, like I said. But at the very least, we could do a budget rebuild, dingle ball, hone it, new rings, rods, mains, gaskets, new double roller timing chain and gear. Put this cam back in it. I really would love to know what it is. You know, because we want to make the Chevelle a cruiser, you know, a driver. So we don't need no big radical big block that's not drivable. We want to be able to drive it. So, and you know, rebuilding big blocks, even budget friendly, is not going to be cheap. So, I mean, it is what it is. We'll get there. Like I said, I'm glad me and my son Cody tore this down to inspect it, because we would have had troubles. But this is the trans I told you guys in the last video that came with it, M22. And as you guys can see here, this collar is wore out. It's missing pieces, which that's how it was when we got it. So I ended up getting another M22, 66 M22, which is complete. It's got a good part on there. This one's got all the linkages, everything that we would need. I haven't run the numbers on the tail shaft, but this one doesn't look like it's been touched. Last time we were at Jenny's mom, we ended up getting this out of the 4-speed stash. That way we can at least piece two together. You know, take two of them and make one good 4-speed. For Dave's 1965 Malibu SS. But yeah, I mean, if that big block is not practical to redo, I mean, eventually it would get done and just, you know, keep it around. I know Dave wanted to put a big block in there, but with that cylinder being like that, you know, and why, you know, why is it sucking oil or burning oil? Which, like I said, it doesn't look like it's wore out. I still see cross hatching in the cylinders. So maybe it was coming up through the ported heads and the intake guy, like I said. But if it's still too beefy of a big block for this setup, you know, it might be getting a period correct small block. That way she can cruise it around. But only time can tell on that. Oh, I want to show you guys too. I dug up the sill plates. Look at, they're like brand new. Body by Fisher. You know, the more I dig in on this stuff, the more impressed I am on how Dave preserved this car, and it really shows to me how much it meant to him. And like I said, I want to do him justice, but you know, Dave, he's got, you know, he had plenty of cars, and that was his dream to big block swap this. And but what's Jenny's dream? Jenny's dream is to be able to drive the car, cruise her mom around in it. So we got to take that into consideration also. So if you guys know anything about these parts that I showed, like the reed cam, give you one more shot of them numbers, or the old, man, these things are heavy. Yeah, see, that's burn all. Dang. Or the old cast iron Merlin heads, leave in the comments. Manly. I mean, it's got some nice, you know, Harlen sharps, Manleys. So that E&E company that built this LS7 definitely knew what they were doing. I'm sure it was probably a bad boy when it first came out. You know, a lot of like the old marine companies for the cigarette boats and stuff, they would buy the blocks and build them for marine purposes also. So was that what this was? Was a marine engine out of, you know, from a cigarette boat, or we don't know. So, but when we get tearing in it more and get the the piston, one piston out, or rod cap off and the main cap on a couple, you know, usually when I do it, I like to pull, like say, one here, and then one back here on the mains, to check 2 mains, and then we'll do a rod up here, and then we'll do a rod back here, just to be safe, you know, and that'll tell me the story, instead of tearing it all the way. I mean, if the bearings still look good, there ain't no sense of pulling a fully balanced rotating assembly apart if it survived the weld job. I don't know if I can take it outside and show you this front of this pan. They hit something hard, or Cody seems to think that maybe they just did it for clearance issues. How well can you guys see that? Was that self-clearance, or was that bottomed out? Either way, junk. All our snow is finally melting. Now I got shitty oil all over my hands. Wipe this off and we'll wrap this up. So, yeah, leave in the comments what you guys think of the LS7 here. And like I said, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and then we'll figure it out. And then we're going to get something going on, whether it's period correct small block or just a budget rebuild for this. And I did keep everything in line, you know, all the lifters. That way they go back into the same spots. If we decide to reuse this custom ground camshaft. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, that port job. I mean, yes, it's dirty from oil being in there and sitting, but I'm sure when it was done, it was a nice piece. But anyways, guys, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. I just wanted to show you guys the big block that came with Dave Chevelle here. Again, I'm so glad we tore it apart, because we would have destroyed it. He had it sitting by the car for a reason. I think this is the one, like I said, but he has so many big blocks over there. It's just, was this just over there just to be over there? I don't know. But anyways, as we tear into it more, we'll do another video on that. And as usual, guys, I really appreciate everybody for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. All right. Bye-bye.